This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome back to Secretary of Finance Rick Brown. Delighted to have you back. You've been serving the Commonwealth in financial matters since 1971, but have only been Secretary of Finance for 6 years. I say only because that's practically a record, and certainly you've served now under 3 governors as Secretary of Finance. Appreciate your being on. And on the 15th of August, when you made your presentation to the Joint Money Committees, I took that as an opportunity to say, Mr. Secretary, this would be a great time for you to come back on, for us to put as many of those slides up as possible and have you to make the same sort of presentation to our audience around the Commonwealth. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the comments. Yeah, it's been a sort of pins and needles year for the Commonwealth, so maybe we can get into some of the finances and talk about them.
Okay. Well, we're going to have some slides up on the screen, and as they come up on the screen, you'll be able to see them here in the studio, and we'll be able to tell our viewers what they're seeing. So when those come up, we'll do that, and I think that they're ready to do it. Plus, we're also going to get your website up so that people would be able to see your website.
All the presentation is on the website as well as other data.
Presentation is there, plus they can go on there and they can see about the 4 departments that you are over, and a couple of funds and 1 division, and all of that work. Plus they can go onto a great page and read about you and see what
history.
Yes. So we'll ask to get those slides up at this time, and here's the very first one. So let me be quiet and you speak to what our viewers are seeing.
Okay, this is general fund revenue over the course of our fiscal year, which started July 1st of 13 and ran through June 30th of 2014. And as you can see, we had estimated about percent growth in general fund revenues, and didn't quite make it. We were sort of ahead of that at the end of April, so things had gone pretty well during the course of the year. Of course, we rely a lot on income tax in the May 1st filing date. So very late in our fiscal year is when we get final payments, and everybody knew as we entered this year that if there was any trouble, it would probably be in those final payments, and that had a little bit to do with federal fiscal policy. So that was a big question mark. Unfortunately, we had projected those final payments would be flat. They were down about 23%, and so we ended the year under the revenue forecast by about $438 million.
And that one where the line was way down was the month of May.
Yeah, that was the month of May. Yeah, it was 20% loss during the month of May.
Yes.
So the drop off in general fund revenues is put us in negative territory, as you can see on this slide. Why don't we go to the next slide if we can? This is withholding. There was two primary slides that on here that and sources of revenue that it caused the problem. One was the slide we'll see at some point with the big negative, David, that you talked about. That's on the non-withholding side. This is withholding. This was another concern. It was off about $66 million from the forecast. And you can see it sort of hovered around the forecast, but we had projected withholding would come in about 2.9%. It was about 2.1% last year, and it came in about 2.3, so it's been hovering about that 2.1, 2.3
Right.
zone. It just hasn't picked up. Our job growth in Virginia was about 0.4% from June to June, and nationwide it was about 1.7%. So we're not growing similar to the nation at this stage of the game, and there is a drag on that withholding, so we didn't get the uplift that maybe we had expected, even though we had cut that back some. So if we look at this slide, you can see it sort of explains that the withholding tax collections fell short of the estimate by that 66 million.
So that was a part of the problem. So here's
Yeah.
another part.
So let's go. You're going to see in this, I think there's going to be the distribution of where we get withholding from. And there's three major sources that are big segments of our economy, state and local and federal government, the defense contractors that all do business with Washington. And then there's a very large sector we call business and professional services. Those are doctors, lawyers, scientists. They sort of make up a whole deal-making industry in Virginia. Lobbying and deal, as you would imagine, with the seat of government, national government at our northern border. We have a large industry that's centered around doing business with the government, whether that's procurement, whether it's lobbying, whether it's public relations, whether it's research. And these are very high-paid jobs.
And these you're
they're
talking about
very
really
professional, highly educated jobs. And here's where we're having trouble, as the federal government has cut back. And I think on one of the slides that we'll see, go to the next one and see if it's up. Yes, this is a slide. You can see on this slide that there's some separate bars, blue, green, and red. Blue being 2006, right at the height before the Great Recession. The green being 2011, the first year we sort of came out of recession full year, and the red being fiscal 14, or the one we just completed. And you can see how that top line, professional and business services, had grown. Last year it was negative, so we lost jobs in that area. And when we lose those high-paying jobs, we have to grow a lot more underneath of that, and the leisure and the retail sales and the hotel sales in order to make it up. It doesn't match dollar for dollar for the wages. So that is a drag on withholding, and unfortunately I think it's going to be with us for a little bit longer. And what the Advisory Board of Economists had to grapple with when they came in to do a reforecast of revenues for Virginia, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
You know, I think when you made your presentation, and even as you were stating here, that Northern Virginia has been the major economic engine
That's
for
the home
the
of that
Commonwealth.
segment, you know,
and so that's the area that's geographically that's down the most, I guess. Then.
Yeah, it's the area it's not growing or stumbling, and then downstate as you grow with the other jobs, you've really got to grow more than just job per job in order to make up with that wage loss.
The higher
and we're
wages.
principally an income tax state, so when you lose wages and salaries and in high-paying jobs, and you're having to grow in moderate-paying jobs in order to make it up, it just takes more growth than we're getting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well let's take a look at the next slide then and see.
Okay, this is the non-withholding side of it. Now this is withholding is what we take out of the earned wages on a regular basis. Non-withholding comes from the non-wage income. That's interest, dividends, rents, primarily capital gains. And it comes to us in two forms. It comes to us in estimated payments, which are filed quarterly by the taxpayer with the Department of Taxation. And then final payments, that May payment that was all the way down. Now the issue here is you can see the spike that we had in 13 above the line, and then when we went to 14 below the line. The federal fiscal policy, the fiscal cliff as it is known, is they approached the end of calendar year 12. The feds had not, the Bush era tax cuts were running out. The feds had not replaced that with legislation. So there was a big unknown to taxpayers, especially in higher income groups. They had a lot of investment about what their taxes would look like come January 1st to 13. The feds didn't pass legislation to the 2nd of January. And as it turned out, if you were having capital gains were taxed at 15%. That moved up to 20%, and then with the passage of the Affordable Health Care Act and some of the taxes that were placed on investment income, that really went up to about 23.8%. So that differential was enough to make a lot of high earners realize capital gains in before December 31st to 12 and take them in tax year 12, which came to us in 13. That's why that big spike in the May of 13, we went up about 30% or so on final payments at that stage of the game. It also had the effect of drying up capital gains going downstream for that into calendar year 13. Everybody took them in 12. They didn't take them in 13. And so we get that coming into the state in May of 14 as the income tax is filed for final payment. You can see it was down 20%. We knew that that effect was there. It was just far greater than we thought or imagined at the time. We had projected that those payments would be flat or barely negative, and they were 20% negative. So that's what caused the shortfall. Principally, 401 of the $438 million shortfall was caused by that alone. The other 66 that we lost in withholding, actually the shortfall in those two sources was greater than the total shortfall. So the rest of the general fund was really in surplus, cutting back on sort of the losses in those two sources.
That really helps to explain it, because I think many people, not the ones who heard you on August 15th, but many people say, well, isn't the Virginia economy as a whole doing fairly well? And they're not thinking about the loss of those high income jobs. And so if it's doing fairly well, then what's the big...
Yeah, you've got two aspects of it. One is the federal tax policy, which had the shifts in the non-withholding. Right. The other is sort of the composition of the labor force in Virginia. Even though we're growing, we're changing in the composition, and that's having an effect on taxes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's take a look at another one of the slides.
Okay. This is, again, individual income tax and non-withholding collections, explaining that. Let's move to the next one if we can. Okay. And I went over this about the realized capital gains and when they were taken. They were taken in calendar year 12 or tax year 12, which was reported to us in 13. And then, so there was no capital gains to take in 14.
If we go back to the capital gains ones for just a moment, and you and your expertise and then the other advisors the governor has, is it possible to look into the crystal ball as you're trying to on the budget, looking at capital gains income to the Commonwealth a year from now, 2 years from now?
Yeah. A lot of what the models that project capital gains and non-withholding are based on is the opportunities to create wealth. Your wealth has to be created, and then it has to be realized to become a taxable event. And so the models really look backward to say, okay, how was the stock market doing last year? Was there wealth being created? Was it going up? Well, the stock market was going up. It went up. S&P went up 25% last year. So it drove the models higher, but people weren't taking those gains. As a matter of fact, probably what happened towards the end of 12 is people that even wanted to stay in investments, that they took those capital gains, got right back into the same investments, and just are now still accumulating capital gains, but they're not realized capital gains, so they're not taxable yet. So the question is, when does that bounce back? When do we get that inflection point? And as we looked at it over time, what we had concluded that once capital gains, non-withholding, gets above about 15% of the total revenue take in Virginia, it gets unsustainable over a longer period of time. If you look at the sort of the technology boom in Virginia at the end of the 90s going up to the turn of the century, we got above 15. It didn't last. We fell back as soon as we went into recession in 2002. We came out with the housing bubble, got as high as about 18%, fell back when the housing bubble popped. Last year, the projection had that at about a little over 17% of total revenue. We didn't get it. We're about 15%. So what we did in the model is said, okay, if we're not going to take the risk on that, even though left unbridled, the model would project more for non-withholding, we're going to cap it at the 15%. And if it does happen, then it is probably more temporary money anyway that we ought to put in sort of one-time investments like capital outlay, as opposed to raising the operating base using that. So that is sort of the criteria we're going by now in the forecast. And we'll see when we get to May of 2015 and May of 2016, how we fare on that. But so we've capped it and cut our risk a little bit.
Yes. Okay, well, let's look at some of the remaining slides.
Okay, this is the Virginia economy.
This is one that we might say to the viewers that they might not be able to see all those small numbers, but
let me tell you what's going on here. This is after we called in the advisory boards to look at the Virginia economy again. After we closed the year, they came in on July 9th, the Advisory Board of Economists, and we presented them with various national forecasts. We subscribed to a number. And they went over those forecasts, and for most of the standard forecasts for the nation, they were pretty much in agreement. They took no major issues with that. But they did take issues with the forecast for Virginia. And one of the things that they pointed at was this sluggish sort of growth and loss in professional and business services and sluggish growth in total employment in Virginia. And they just weren't satisfied that we had turned the corner on that. So what they did in that slide was just the before and after. If you look at employment, they brought it down about half, down to about 0.7% growth. If you look at wages and salaries, they cut that about a third down. So, and of course that has, when you cut employment growth, when you cut wage and salary growth, it has a big effect on personal income tax, which is the major source in the general fund. So as they got more pessimistic, and we labeled that the Joint Advisory Board of Economists' pessimistic forecast, it wasn't as pessimistic as some of the national forecasts, but it was pessimistic for Virginia. And that was the forecast that went to the Governor's Advisory Council on Revenue Estimates, which is the CEOs of major corporations in Virginia, and did the sort of the draft revenue forecast that they saw. And as it turned out, they were okay with everything on the non-withholding side and everything pretty much in the revenue forecast, but again thought that the weakness in employment growth, that probably withholding ought to be cut just a little bit more than even that pessimistic forecast, so they cut it back a little bit. And that was the forecast that we delivered on August 15th.
Okay.
So I think the next slide will get to that, and is what this slide tries to show the viewers is, okay, if you look at that very first slide, it is what was in the budget, the original forecast that was in 15 and 16. The second line is the revised forecast, and you can see it's about $2 billion difference between, over the course of the 2 years, between what was in the budget and the revised forecast. Now, we also got to account for the fact that we missed 14, which is a 3-year problem. So 14, the 437.8 that we missed has to be added to that. So when you do that, it's about a $2.4 billion difference. Now, you know, we stayed in session for a long time to June. And whether you think that was good or bad, it did have a silver lining into it that the General Assembly, being in session, could see some of the preliminary results from May and could take them into consideration. And when they saw, especially during that first 2 weeks of May, we called them in, the governor called them in, and we said that we're not seeing the final payments that we had projected. We think they're going to be short. They began to anticipate a revenue shortfall for 14. And of course, if it was a revenue shortfall for 14, that would have implications for 15 and 16. So they started to set aside reserves in the budget to deal with that issue that was emerging at the time. And on that slide, you can see that they almost 700 million, 680 million in reserves that they set up within the budget. That's just a cash appropriation that would be there to offset a shortfall, so that you had that. The assumption was too that if there was a shortfall of that magnitude, that you'd be able to go into the Revenue Stabilization Fund to the tune of about $705 million over the course of the biennium. So those dollars are available to offset that 2.4 projected shortfall. Unfortunately, they're not enough. They total about 1.55 billion versus the 2.4. And so that difference is what the difference is now. That $800 million difference is what we have to make up now, and what we'll be about from now to about October 1st addressing.
Now, was that the last slide, or is there another slide?
There may have been another slide just talking about what we do from here out. But let me tell you, I can sort of tell you what we'll be doing from here out. One
tell our viewers that.
Is that agencies will be asked to do some budget reduction plans. The governor is articulating his priorities at this stage of the game so that they will be able to match up his priorities with their other activities. Hopefully to cut discretionary spending. We will make certain types of exemptions from that across the board exercise for various types of spending, like the standards of quality in public education, that we have some constitutional issues. You just can't cut it across the board. It needs to be a much more strategic or policy change if you're going to reduce that. So those items are pulled out. The agencies will be doing that exercise, and I expect that they'll be asked to report back to us about mid-September. In the other arena, the Department of Planning and Budget staff will be working jointly with the Money Committee staff. This will be a joint executive legislative exercise. We've agreed to that to identify other sort of targeted or policy kinds of areas that may be changed that would promote some savings, whether efficiencies, how to approach services different, policy changes that would make a difference in the dollars that we appropriate. So, and the two of those will come together into a plan that the governor will announce to the General Assembly. Probably, we haven't set a date on that, but I mean, our aim would be to have at least that 15 that first year in place by the end of the quarter, October 1st. So that's sort of our internal time frame to try to do it. Now, it's all important that we get 15, which is about 345 million. That's the difference in 15 settled very quickly, because the year is marching on, and
I've got signal that our time is marched on too. So they can go on the website, see this again if they'd like. But again, thank you very much for being on.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.